At dinner, my fiancée declared, "I've decided we need a prenuptial agreement. Everything stays separate." I grinned and pulled out my phone to show her I'd already withdrawn my $50,000 from our house deposit. The silence that followed was deafening. Claire's face went from smug confidence to pale shock in about 3 seconds. Her parents, George and Diane, looked like they'd been slapped. I felt this surge of satisfaction watching their little scheme crumble in real time. See, I'd suspected something was up when Claire had been acting weird all week, having hushed phone calls with her parents and suddenly getting very interested in protecting our individual assets. What really hit me was the audacity. Here she was, demanding financial separation while expecting me to bankroll her dream house. The cognitive dissonance was staggering, but instead of getting emotional, something clicked in my brain. This was just another problem to solve, like debugging complex code or architecting a system that can handle millions of users. I've built my career as a senior software architect by thinking 3 steps ahead, and right now, I was already mapping out every possible move in this game she'd just started. I'm 32, make $140,000 a year developing enterprise software solutions, and I didn't get here by being naive about people's motivations. Over the past 3 years with Claire, I'd noticed patterns, how she always seemed to forget her wallet when expensive bills came, how she'd plan elaborate trips and somehow assume I'd cover the costs. Her favorite phrase was, "You got this," whenever money needed spending. I thought it was playful. Turns out it was strategic. The house situation had been months in the making. We'd found this perfect place for $420,000 that needed some work but had incredible potential. I'd saved $50,000 over 3 years of disciplined spending, skipping vacations, driving my paid-off Honda instead of upgrading, meal prepping instead of eating out. Every dollar was earned through overtime projects and side consulting work. Claire's contribution was supposed to be $34,000, $30,000 from her parents and $4,000 from her savings. When we signed the purchase agreement 2 weeks ago, I immediately wired my portion to escrow. Claire said her parents were handling the transfer, and there was no rush. Red flag number 1. Red flag number 2 was when she started getting secretive about wedding planning, always stepping away to take calls from her mom. Red flag number 3 was yesterday when she mentioned wanting to protect what we each bring to the marriage in a casual conversation. That's when I called my lawyer buddy Marcus. He's handled my contract negotiations for years and has this gift for spotting bad deals from a mile away. I explained the house situation and Claire's sudden interest in asset protection. Marcus laughed. "Matt, she's running a classic bait and switch. Get you emotionally and financially invested, then change the terms when you're trapped. How easy is it for you to withdraw from the deal?" Turns out, very easy. Since we weren't married and she hadn't deposited her share within the required time frame, I could pull out with 0 penalty and get my full deposit back. I made that call yesterday afternoon while Claire was at work. Now, watching her parents' faces as they realized their daughter just lost access to my $50,000, I felt completely vindicated. "What do you mean withdrew?" Diane managed to stammer. "I contacted the escrow company yesterday and removed myself from the purchase. Since Claire hadn't deposited her portion yet and we're not married, I got my full $50,000 back. Here's the email confirmation." George's face turned red. "But we already sent Claire the money." "Then she can buy the house herself. Her credit, her funds, her house. Simple, right?" "I can't get a $420,000 loan on my $65,000 income," Claire said, her voice climbing toward panic. "The pre-approval was based on both our incomes combined. Then find a cheaper place, or get a cosigner. I was enjoying this way too much." "But we signed a purchase agreement," she protested. "You signed, I withdrew. You have 72 hours to deposit your share, or you lose the house and forfeit the $5,000 earnest money." That's when it got really interesting. Diane shot up from her chair. "This is financial coercion." "No, this is me honoring Claire's request for separate finances. She wanted independence, she's got it." Claire was full-on panicking now. "I need your $50,000. We planned this together." "But you just said, what's mine stays mine, what's yours stays yours." That was your exact quote. So my money stays mine. That's for after we're married. So you want my money now, but protection from my debts later? You want to use my savings for the down payment, but if I ever get sued or face financial problems, you're legally shielded from any of it? George tried to play the authority card. You're going to fix this, young man. No, actually I'm not. Claire wanted financial independence. She's about to get exactly that. The beautiful thing about being a software architect is that you learn to think in systems. Every input has an output. Every decision has consequences. Claire had just input, separate finances into our relationship system, and she was about to discover what the output looked like when I actually implemented her request. I stood up from the table. Thanks for dinner, Claire. You've got about 68 hours to make your deposit. Let me know what you decide. Walking out of that house felt like deleting bad code. Clean, efficient, problem solved. My phone exploded with 39 texts over the next hour. I ignored every single one. But here's what really sealed it for me. The next day, my friend Jake told me he'd overheard Claire at a coffee shop, bragging to her girlfriends about her brilliant prenup strategy. She'd actually called me. A bank with a proposal, and laughed about how she was getting me to fund most of the house while keeping her family's money protected. That's when I knew I'd made the right call. This wasn't about protecting assets. It was about having her cake and eating it too. The desperation that followed was almost comical. Claire spent the next 3 days frantically calling banks, credit unions, even some sketchy online lenders. The best she could qualify for was a $200,000 loan, nowhere near the $420,000 she needed. The house was gone, along with the $5,000 earnest money her parents had paid. Monday morning, George showed up at my office. Security called me when this red-faced man in an expensive suit demanded to see me about financial damages. You cost us $35,000, he announced when I came down to the lobby. The $30,000 gift plus the earnest money. I cost you nothing. I backed out of a purchase agreement before marriage, which I'm legally allowed to do. If you gave Claire money, that's between you and her. You knew she couldn't afford it alone. Then maybe she shouldn't have demanded separate finances. Here's her text from yesterday. I showed him the message. Everything's separate, clean and simple. What's mine is mine. What's yours is yours. He actually tried to grab my phone. That's when building security escorted him out and banned him from the premises. Tuesday brought Claire's friend Tara as a mediator. We met at a neutral coffee shop downtown. She's willing to compromise, Tara started. Prenup stays, but the house would be joint property. That's not a compromise. That's exactly what she wanted originally. She gets legal asset protection while using my money. She's also willing to share streaming subscriptions. I actually laughed out loud. Streaming subscriptions? She wants my $50,000 for a house but offers Netflix access in return? You're being unfair. I'm being consistent. She said separate is separate. She loves you. She called me a bank with a proposal. Tara's face flushed. Who told you that? Doesn't matter. It's true, isn't it? She mumbled something about girl talk and left without finishing her latte. Wednesday was when Claire made her biggest mistake. She went public on social media, posting about how her dream home was stolen by a man, intimidated by a strong, independent woman. The comments weren't kind. People immediately saw through it. Wait, you wanted a prenup but expected him to pay more for the house? Separate finances but joint property? That's not how it works. Didn't you post about getting him to fund most of it? A coworker from her marketing firm even commented. Didn't you call him your personal ATM last week? The post disappeared within 2 hours. Thursday brought the most ridiculous development yet. Her parents invited me to dinner. To resolve this maturely, I suggested a neutral restaurant instead. They agreed, and George showed up with an actual slideshow on his tablet. Here's our proposal, he said, pulling up charts. You and Claire buy a house together. You contribute $50,000. We contribute $30,000. But the ownership split is 50-50. So I pay 62% but own 50%. It's about building a life together. With separate finances, as Claire demanded, Diane tried the emotional approach. Don't you love her? Don't you want her to be happy? I wanted a partner. She wanted a financier. Those aren't the same thing. That's when Claire finally snapped. You embarrassed me. Everyone knows you bailed on our house. You embarrassed yourself with that prenup stunt. It was for our protection. No, it was for your protection while spending my money. That money is nothing to you. And there it was, the entitlement laid bare. That money represents 3 years of 60-hour work weeks, skipped vacations, and living below my means. But to you, it's nothing because I earned it and you want it. George tried one final pitch. What if we pay you back over time? Pay me back for what? I never gave you anything. Your share of the house. What house? The one that Claire couldn't afford? The one that's already sold to someone else? They stormed out, but not before Diane called me. Heartless, and George threatened some vague legal action. Friday brought a certified letter from Claire's lawyer demanding $50,000 for detrimental reliance and breach of promise. I forwarded it to Marcus, who called me back laughing so hard I thought he might need medical attention. This is the worst legal threat I've seen in 15 years of practice, he wheezed. 1, you never gave them any money. 2, withdrawing from a real estate purchase before marriage isn't breach of anything. 3, her own texts prove she demanded separate finances. 4, expecting someone to fund a house while demanding asset separation isn't reasonable reliance. It's delusional. His response was a masterpiece of legal writing that basically boiled down to, try us. We never heard from her lawyer again. But Claire wasn't done. She found a smaller house for $250,000 in a rougher neighborhood and actually texted me. Found a sweet starter home. You put in $30,000, I'll do $20,000. Fresh start? We're not together anymore, Claire. What? Over one argument? Over you showing your true colors. That night, she showed up at my apartment with her parents and, I kid you not, a real estate agent clutching the property listings. We can tour houses tomorrow, she announced, like nothing had happened. Claire, we're done. The engagement is over. That's when it finally sank in. You're serious? Over a house? Over your prenup scheme? Over calling me a bank with a proposal? Over trying to use my money while protecting yourself from any risk? George stepped forward. You're trespassing. Leave or I'm calling the police. You're at my apartment. You're the ones trespassing. The real estate agent, looking mortified, tried to slip away. Claire actually grabbed her arm. Show him the listings. I shook my head, and the agent practically sprinted to the elevator. I did everything right, Claire screamed. I was protecting our future. You were protecting your future with my money. That's what smart women do. Then go be smart with someone else's money. They finally left after more shouting that brought neighbors into the hallway. Building management sent me a noise complaint warning the next day. I responded with security footage showing 3 people forcing their way to my door and loitering in the hallway for 20 minutes. They issued Claire a formal trespass notice. The financial fallout was swift and brutal. Claire had already given notice on her apartment, expecting to move into our house. Now she was scrambling to find a place with damaged credit and no cosigner. She ended up moving back in with her parents. The wedding venue became another disaster. Claire had been making payments hoping I'd come to my senses. When I didn't, she sent me an invoice for half the deposits, $18,000. I sent back her own texts about keeping everything separate. She lost those deposits too, money her parents had advanced thinking we'd work things out. Then came the engagement ring saga. She refused to return it, claiming I had disgraced her. In our state, engagement rings are conditional gifts. No marriage, no ring. When she still wouldn't budge, Marcus sent a formal demand letter. She returned it, but had swapped the diamond for a fake. I'd had it appraised before giving it to her, and again after getting it back. Caught red-handed. Her parents threatened to sue me over the accusation, so I threatened theft charges. The real ring materialized within 24 hours. Here's the beautiful part about that $30,000 her parents gave her. IRS gift tax rules still applied, since it was a gift to her personally, not to both of us, and exceeded the annual exclusion limit. They owed about $4,000 in taxes. Plus, since no house was actually purchased, Claire had to pay income tax on the gift, another $6,000. Their generous gesture ended up costing nearly $40,000 for absolutely nothing. 6 months later, Claire is still living with her parents. She posts regularly on social media about overcoming betrayal and thriving despite toxic men. A mutual friend showed me her dating profile. She's looking for a real man who isn't intimidated by successful women, who must be financially secure and generous. According to the friend, she mentions wanting prenups on first dates but expects guys to pay for everything. They usually don't make it to a second date. One reportedly told her, "You want a sponsor, not a spouse." Tara, the friend who tried to mediate, later apologized. She hadn't known about the bank with a proposal comment or Claire's months-long plan to get me to fund the house while protecting her family's money through the prenup. Jake, who first told me about Claire's coffee shop bragging, said he felt terrible for not warning me sooner about her true intentions. The house we were supposed to buy, it sold 3 months later for $400,000, $20,000 below asking because the market had softened. We could have gotten a steal, but there never was a we. It was always just me bankrolling her vision while she shielded herself from any risk. My mom, a retired family court judge, put it perfectly when I told her the whole story. She wanted a sponsor, not a spouse. Thank God you figured it out before the wedding. Marcus still brings up the case when we grab drinks, calling it the most satisfying legal non-case he's ever handled. I'm doing fine now. I invested that $50,000 in index funds and it's up 12% already. I bought a smaller place on my own, a nice condo that I can easily afford and truly own. Dating isn't on my radar yet, but when it is, I'll know exactly what red flags to watch for. Someone asked if I have any regrets. Just one. Not spotting her game earlier, the signs were everywhere. Her, "You got this" when bills arrived, planning expensive trips and assuming I'd pay. Once saying, "What's the point of dating someone with money if they don't spend it on you?" I thought she was joking. She wasn't. She wanted my assets but not my debts, my income but not my risks, my money but not my problems. She wanted, "What's mine is mine, what's yours is ours." Instead, she got exactly what she asked for. Complete financial separation from me. Permanently.